What's up everybody and welcome back to my channel. It's time for a recap of what went down on last night's episode of Teen Mom 2. Jade Cline backs up everybody's story, which is that her parents were not helping out with herself or her daughter Chloe throughout her recovery, and she claims that she had panic attacks every day of her recovery, which is incredibly dangerous because a BBL is already stressful enough on the body as it is. Meanwhile, in Orlando, whatever happened to Briana's single broke mom shtick? Because remember how last season she's like, I have no money to do anything. Devon and Lewis need to help me. I'm spending like $10,000 a month on my kids or whatever, and I have no time to do anything because I got 3 jobs. Well, here she is at her house talking to her mom and her sister about how she wants to go down to Miami to help Jade out, who, by the way, she barely knows. She sees her like 2-3 times a year for the second time in a couple of days. I guess at this point, Jade's friend Kelsey had already had to go home. Remember, she's got a child of her own, so she couldn't have been there forever. So it turns out that Jade was actually planning on leaving Miami that same night, that Briana wanted to go up there to intervene, you know, before she headed over to Indiana. Briana feels as though it's not safe for Jade to get on the plane quite yet. At this point, I'm kind of like, okay, it was great that you're helping out Jade with everything and you handled the 911 call incredibly well, but I'm getting like hero complex vibes at this point. If Jade wants to fly, it's because her doctor already cleared her to fly. So just kind of leave her alone at this point. She's not doing well at her house. You know, like she said earlier, she's having panic attacks every day. So maybe it is just for the best that she goes back to her own house, her parents leave her alone, and everything else kind of just falls into place. I kind of feel like Brie was giving the vibes of, you know, the type of person who wants to help you so they can brag about helping you or whatever. Meanwhile, in West Virginia, Addie is struggling with studying at home, and again, I'm wondering why Leah still has yet to have her own personal storyline this season. You know, like, when are we going to find out what kind of business it is that she's allegedly running out of that random townhouse she decided to rent? She called her friend to talk about Addie's schooling, supposedly, and I say supposedly because it never really seemed like she was ever on the phone. You just see like her home screen on her phone, you see like photos or text messages or whatever, but never like the actual like dial screen or anything like that. And over in Dover, Kail opens up about her PCOS journey at this point, and she claims to be having a hard time losing weight despite changing her diet and exercising. And she claims that she's never had issues losing weight in the past, but that it has gotten harder recently. And then we head down south to California, where Bar and Ashley drop off their daughter at her parents' house on their way to the Napa Valley Vineyards, as Bar talks to her parents about how he hasn't been motivated to drink since he got his ankle monitor taken off the other day. I had to laugh at that point. Back down south in Florida again, I feel like Briana was stepping over her boundaries again when she tells Sean that it's not a good idea for Jade to fly because she could die. Like, that was so hardcore, girl, you know? And then we all already know that Jade suffers from anxiety and panic disorder, and so for her to turn around and tell Jade that same thing too, as she's already stressed and having panic attacks every day, was a bit too much. Just like Sean said, her doctor cleared her to go, and so, you know, Briana, I know you've had a BBL before and other plastic surgeries, but that does not mean that you are a doctor and that your word should go above that of a doctor. I will say though that I liked her telling Jade to just send Sean home with a baby and getting rid of her parents as well. I feel like that's what should have happened from the very beginning. Jade should have went with reliable friend or two and then left everybody else in her family back home in Indiana. But here's the thing. At that point, Briana tells Jade that she needs to go to her house in Orlando where she and, you know, her family and Shirley will take care of her. But at this point, you know, Jade still has, you know, fluids running from her, blood running from her. So why did she want that like in her house with her sheets and her children? It's just unhygienic in my personal opinion. And I also felt like, listen, so many regular girls who get BBLs or just lipos or boob jobs or whatever spend the money to get a recovery hotel or, you know, someone to watch after them. So why could Jade from Teen Mom 2 with her first class plane tickets not have done that? I really can't stand irresponsible people. I don't think it was fair that, you know, Jade brought like 10 people as if it was a family vacation rather than reliable people, and that this had to, you know, kind of in a way fall on Briana's shoulders, because I do believe she was genuinely like worried for Jade. At first, Sean was quite upset about Briana's proposition that he go home with Chloe. He's like, what kind of boyfriend would I be if I didn't take care of you? Which I get, and I was worried that he wouldn't allow her to stay, but he ultimately, you know, decided, okay, fine, I'll go home with the baby and the parents and leave Jade in you guys' hands. But before they packed up to leave, he's like, listen, Chloe has been here the whole time and she hasn't seen you and she's really begging to see you. And so at that point, he shows Chloe to Jade, and then Chloe asks Jade if she's sick, and Jade says, yeah. In West Virginia again, Leah gets Addie enrolled back for school again, and you know, she was hilariously excited for it. I've never seen her so excited for anything, not even her 2 weddings or hooking up with Robbie. Back in Kail's scene, I know I said Dover earlier, but it wasn't Dover. She was filming her podcast somewhere else. So she opens up about her official PCOS diagnosis and talks about wanting to freeze her eggs, and claims that now she thinks she might not be able to conceive naturally in the future thanks to, you know, being diagnosed with PCOS. So she wants to freeze her eggs. And I'm like, here you go, telling on yourself again for your pathological lying, because when she got pregnant with Lux, her excuse was that a doctor told her, Kail, you're about to go fertile in like 24 months. Find a man, any man, have a baby with him, because after that, your uterus is out the window, or your eggs are out the window, or whatever it was, because you're not going to be able to have babies. Remember, that was her excuse, and now she's saying that it's the whole PCOS thing, and so now she wants to freeze her eggs just in case she wants more kids. But on the same topic, how many more like baby daddies does this woman need? You already have 3. You're already, you know, in all sorts of legal issues with all 3 of your baby daddies, you know, at one point or another. So like, how much more of this do you really need? You know, I have to say, I never really noticed much of a weight gain with Kail. I felt like she was always kind of like a thicker girl. And so it wasn't until they kind of did the panning out situation with her next to Lindsay. But at the same time, I don't think that's fair either, because Lindsay's extremely tiny. I'm betting she's like a 00. So anyone would have looked like, you know, bigger than they normally look next to her. So I'm not really sure about all of this. You know, and I gotta say, especially after the BBL, I always felt like she got that to be more voluminous, and so I always just felt like she was in line with herself. But it was really sad to hear about her struggle with her weight. Listen, it gets harder and harder to lose weight the older you get, and she's now approaching 30, and you know, every time you have a kid, you're trying to bounce back, and she's had 4 and more pregnancies than that. So like, you know, I get why it's getting increasingly difficult for her to lose the weight. But you know, at the same time, I still feel really bad for her, because you do see her go through phases where she like tries to work hard, like, you know, when she did like the CrossFit stuff and this and that. So it must be really frustrating to be working so hard and not being able to lose that damn weight. Back down south in Florida again, Briana calls her mom to talk about bringing Jade over to the house and mentions needing to buy an air mattress to transport Jade. But I'm like, hold up, wait a minute. Jade's mom and dad transported her from the hospital to the house on an air mattress. So why would they not be able to use that for Jade? Unless that's something that the parents sleep on, like wherever it is that they are currently living or squatting or whatever. That was a really interesting question to me. And Jade also claimed not to have clean towels. And I was like, sis, you brought like 10 people with you on this recovery trip and you don't have clean towels. No one's washing your towels. No one can run to Walmart or Target or the dollar store or whatever to get you clean, fresh towels. These people are weird. They really are. Anyway, Briana and Shirley load her onto their air mattress for their 3-hour ride from Miami to Orlando. And my jaw was a little bit like on the floor, because she drove like that, just riding around on an air mattress in the back of a truck for 3 hours on a highway. That's terrifying to me. It's so dangerous. So I do have to say though that I really liked Jade talking about the impact that plastic surgery has had on her mental health. I don't think that's discussed enough. I think people really just focus on the cosmetic, but it is a mental journey as well. And she also dragged her mom for never really entering her room to check in on her. She's like, my mom claims that nobody let her in to see me, but listen, if that were me and I needed to see my daughter, she were in pain or something like that, I would have been breaking through the door to see her. I gotta point out a little bit of the irony here, guys, because, you know, on the flip side, Chloe has been screaming to see Jade, like begging to see her, crying to see her. And what's been happening? Jade's been staying away from her. I keep saying the stuff that she like puts on her mom is the same stuff that she, you know, inflicts on her own daughter. And it's really ironic in a sad way to see this play out and her never even really realize it. Back to wherever the hell Kail is for this podcast of hers again. She worries that PCOS is one more thing that makes her damaged goods on the dating market, but I have to call BS on that. Sis, you are out here beating up your baby daddies, catching charges for assaulting your baby daddies. Allegedly, of course, and you're worried about PCOS making you a deal breaker. And that's not even everything. Let's talk about those PFAs that you have falsely put on your baby daddies as well. I think those things make you more unattractive for something as quote unquote normal, for lack of a better term, as having some sort of a medical condition. I don't think that, you know, PCOS is what is going to turn men off from you, but I digress. So we're back to Bar and Ashley again. They did the whole Napa thing, then they came back to talk about it. Listen, when I see flashbacks of how like wild their scenes used to be, I feel a little bit ripped off. I was expecting all of the drama when they came on because of what I've heard from you guys about their young and pregnant era, but they've just been another Chelsea kind of thing to me, like just kind of boring, you know. I'm just disappointed. Anyway, Bar gets Ashley's dad's blessing to marry her, and you know, we're back in West Virginia again, where it's Addie's first day of school, so she has to wake up at 5 a.m., which I think is so unfair for children, but I guess, listen, when you live out in the middle of nowhere, so far from school, I'm assuming, which probably starts at like 7 o'clock or something, I don't know, like you do have to get up incredibly early. So we're down in Florida again, where we saw Briana bathe the Jade and then Shirley take her to the toilet. Guys, why is Shirley involved in this? Shirley barely even knows Jade, much less than Briana knows Jade. So it's kind of weird that she would even like sign up to do all of this. Doesn't she have a kid or something? Like, how does she have the time to go to Miami that first time, go to Miami the second time, and then come over here to just be wiping Jade's ass? Like, why? Like, you don't have a kid, you don't have a job, girl, something to do, PTA meetings, nothing. And now in the final scene of the episode, Jade and Shirley come out of the toilet and then they talk to Briana and her family about the car ride from Miami as they all eat junk food and drink extra large sodas. Plastic surgery is a waste on all of these girls. I swear to God, they all eat just garbage. Pure garbage, and you know, they think that getting plastic surgery is going to be a miracle cure. I'm sorry, but no, it's not. Look at Kail. Even before she was diagnosed with PCOS, after she got her BBL, she got pregnant almost immediately, and then she was eating like trash. She was eating really horribly. She was always eating takeout and stuff, you know, with her kids and everything, and just never really maintaining it. Like, it wasn't until the more recent years that she got really into the whole CrossFit thing, but she had a phase, kind of like Briana is still in that phase, where they just eat junk food. Brittany, junk food all the time, and you know, they kind of wonder why the results don't really last. Anyway, you guys, that does it. A recap of what went down on last night's episode of Teen Mom 2. But as usual, I'm more excited to hear what you have to say about everything. So please make sure to let me know all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, and we'll chat. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.